Yes. Well, they're looking. Right. Mm. Well, as a priority, black reproductive health, which is treatment, which is prevention, which is family planning, which is allotting a substantial, and I'm talking about 900 million, if not a billion, maybe $1 trillion, dedicating that to science, dedicating that to social work, that puts a particular emphasis on supporting black people through a nuanced area, which is reproductive health. The idea of us wanting to start families and how we actually appropriately and adequately we be able to provide care for and support for the children that we produce, but also addressing the endemic of abandoned children in foster care, abandoned children who are not being adopted, who are black youth. I heard one of your commercials just now about the rising gas prices, and look, there's a little bit of frustration that comes up with me because we could have predicted this crisis. The issue is that just like buying any type of mode of transportation, credit eligibility and access to capital matter. And so while black people, just like any other people, and working class white people and poor rural people need to have access to the electric vehicle market, well, we don't have grants for down payment assistance, and we certainly don't have banking institutions that are being incentivized to give subprime lenders access to these cars. And so the argument around let's migrate into an electric vehicle market is admirable and sounds wonderful when you have the secretary like Jennifer Granholm, Secretary of Energy, talking about that transition. But are we actually giving incentive? Are we actually giving meaningful and tangible resources to folks to be able to make that? Heck no, we're not doing so. Big deal. I won't apologize for this, and I won't back down on it. A 100-year moratorium on operations of prisons in our state. Alabama has failed at that duty time and time again. Any life that is lost beyond this point continues to be in addition to too many lives that have already been lost because of our lack of accountability and responsibility for the lives of those who are housed in our prisons and jails in this state. I say that as a former mayor who had jurisdiction over a police department in a majority black city of a majority black police department. We are not up to the task, and we need to move beyond that, and we need to attach humanity to how we're dealing with people, even those who have committed some of the worst crimes that are incarcerated. Depopulation, de-escalation, and imagining our state beyond that is a responsibility that we just have. And by the very standard that the corrections department sets for itself, there has to be punitive critique of what we failed to do with these prisons. I'm not saying you let people go who commit heinous crimes and continue to be a threat to society, but we have to be honest. We have not emphasized rehabilitation. We have not given many options to people who could otherwise be very productive members of society, a gateway back into a society. And further, we have not appropriately analyzed the state's role in creating criminality amongst certain populations of people. I am a reparationist. I advocate and will use as my maiden legislative priority reparations for the American descendants of slaves, and yes, those living in the Alabama territory. We're still examining what that looks like in terms of a total figure, but that does include $1 billion endowment for our HBCUs. I have a HBCU in my backyard, being that I'm from Brighton. Miles College is a friend of my community. And shout out to Bobby Knight on becoming the first inaugurated woman president here in Women's History Month. Talk about NASA classrooms. That was something I worked on. A lot of money is being, and I got the figures here for the amount of money that has been dedicated to research and science, especially around the Huntsville Space Center, where our public school systems and our underserved Title I schools are not benefiting from that investment. And so things like NASA classrooms will be groundbreaking and extraordinary and create a national audience for our public school systems and use our schools as stations for STEM in a way that's unmatched around the country.